have decided to do, for the month of March, I'm doing an entire month of solely calisthenics training. The main reason for me doing this is I wanted to do an experiment to see what would happen if I just stopped using the weights whatsoever. So generally I use kettlebells, and then I do a little bit of bodybuilding training. So I might be doing, 3, maybe 4 days a week of some sort of weight training. I think somebody who lifts weights and does calisthenics is going to be more well-rounded, as an athlete versus somebody who just does calisthenics. But I've never really been able to pin down how much of a gap that is. If you do just calisthenics, can you get 70% of the way there? Can you get 90% of the way there? That's kind of the question that's been raised. And my other thought process with this was that a lot of my calisthenics training and calisthenics training I see in general is a little bit isolated. I either see kind of the standard people training for like skills like planche, front lever, whatever. You see a little bit of the bodybuilding type stuff that, fitness FAQs and a few others of the more like muscular, physique focused calisthenics people do. And then you see somebody like Iron Wolf who kind of does a lot of conditioning work. And so you have all these different camps, right? And then there's also, the primal flow mobility people. I can't forget to mention those. So you've got all these different camps and these different silos, but there's not very many people who have just tried to push it to see how far they can get at improving as many fitness qualities as possible. The one exception to this is the person that I'm going to be using the programming of and the exercises from, which is this guy named Matt Furey. You might not know Matt Furey, but you do know Matt Furey. Even if you haven't read anything that he's written, almost certainly the calisthenics training you've been exposed to in the last 20 years has begged, borrowed, or stealed from some of Matt Furey's ideas and exercises that he's compiled. He's actually still around on YouTube, so I'd recommend giving him a follow. I think he's in his 70s now, but he still moves pretty well. He's still pretty fit, pretty mobile, still has like pretty muscly horse legs, honestly. And I think that's a testament to his training methods more than anything else, is that a guy who's, pretty far into being a senior citizen is still moving and operating at a higher level than, 99% of people that you're seeing at that age group. So clearly there's some validity to what he's doing. A bit into Matt Furey's background from what I've read about him. He is a martial artist. His background originally is American, like folk style wrestling, and then I believe he has done some East Asian martial arts as well later on. He definitely reminds me of Bruce Lee in the sense of Bruce Lee's kind of overarching philosophy. The way I would describe it is the style of no style. Something that I really liked about Bruce's training is he didn't really give a damn about where an exercise came from or if it fit into like a certain niche. He just was really hyper focused on, does this work? Unsurprisingly, kind of philosophy that he's drawing on ends up with a really interesting training program. Combat conditioning is kind of his number one text that he's well known for. And then a secondary text that followed off of that was Combat Abs, which was essentially a midsection focused, accessory to the combat conditioning. His main pulling focused workout program was called, Primate Power, Gorilla Strength Primate Power, something like that, which I was able to track down a text of, which is good because that one's hard to find. The other two are not hard to find, but the Primate Power one is hard to find. I just don't think it's sold as well. It seems at first like a random selection of exercises that you're working through, but as you go through, you just start to understand the methodology as he's trying to create a really well-rounded athlete. So yeah, I'd say about 90% of the programming I'm going to be doing is just applying as many of his exercises as possible and seeing what I can do with that. It's pretty impressive. A lot of these things came out like 25 years ago, and they still seem pretty forward thinking. And I think it's sometimes best to go back to the source, because even though a lot of calisthenics programs have like basically borrowed or taken from him, either directly or indirectly, there's still a lot of exercises that I think are overlooked. So the way I'm splitting it up is just kind of a simple push-pull leg split with adding the core exercises into the pulling. The other thing I've changed majorly from the book, the Primate Power thing, is I've integrated a lot of TAC-Fit's ring strength programming, and most of the Primate Power exercises are based on hanging from a bar and I have changed that to be with rings. The reason is that I'm starting to get back into rings training, and I'm just trying to focus on building up a lot of the strength in my elbows and forearms in order to have kind of ring specific strength. That's probably the biggest change. The leg training is almost verbatim what he's done, what he recommends. Pressing movements are basically the same. The one difference being he recommends the wrestler's bridge, which is a bridge you kind of do on your head that uses a lot of neck musculature. I'm not a fan of this, so I've just been instead replacing it with a shoulder bridge, which is a very similar movement, but you're not placing your head kind of in that compromised position. And then I've been doing neck isometrics instead. I'm particularly interested to see if there's anything that improves a lot besides general calisthenic skills. Like, it'd be interesting if I went back to lifting weights and suddenly I was much stronger at something. I think that would be pretty fascinating. I'm pretty interested in stuff like, can I keep my lower back and posterior chain strength if I'm doing these bridges and these hamstring curls on the power wheel and stuff? Like, is that enough? Most of his exercises have a pretty low skill threshold, so they're very accessible, and it's really just about building up repetitions until you're getting to a very high level of fitness. So you can use these body weight movements, train them for high enough repetitions that you're getting a cardiovascular effect. I'm probably not going to film every set because I essentially have these 3 workouts and I'm just adding repetitions over time. First off, the Hindu squat variations were like they felt really good and they were really taxing on my quads. The other thing that really interested me, and this is like kind of the gold star, when I did those running laps, my legs felt really good. Like, they were fatigued, but my actual joints, my knees and ankles, hips, felt really good. Usually when I'm running, there's just a really nasty, even after a warm up, there's just kind of a nasty, like, my Achilles tendon, ankles, and knees just take a long time to warm up. Like, I was getting so much blood to those joints that I actually felt really insulated, and like there was no pain whatsoever. And I could just, because of that, I think my running technique improved immediately just because I finally wasn't like tight and hurting. And then I went over to my jump roping as well. I just was blown away how much it helped my running and my jump roping. So I think that even if this doesn't really make me stronger or maintain a lot of muscle mass, this is the only set of exercises that I've done that at my current weight of like 100 kilograms or 220 pounds, this is the only thing I've done where I feel like I could just run without pain and jump rope without discomfort in my joints. I'm not sure what it is exactly. I don't know if it's just like the blood flowing. I don't know if it's specific exercises, but yeah, I feel loose. My legs feel fatigued, but not too fatigued. I don't feel super sore. Some of it's the volume wasn't that high because I'm just frankly not that conditioned yet. I was afraid that the exercises and stuff would be so long, but because you're basically doing them continuously, it ends up being quite a short workout. I think I did maybe like 20 minutes, 25. That was with rest breaks and stuff. It kind of defied a lot of my expectations. So yeah, I'm really impressed. I'm just kind of excited to see what happens going forward. If you're somebody who's like over 200 pounds and you have a desire to run, something like this is pretty game changing, pretty revolutionary. I don't know. I'll see what goes on from here, I guess.